Hello everyone, my name is Lesson Man, and today I'm going to be showing you how you can use Uefy's more advanced features. This tutorial kind of picks up where my previous one left off. I'm going to put a link down there in case you missed that one and need that more basic tutorial. So we already have something that's rigged, it's ready to go, and it's inside of Unreal. I'm going to take a look at this. It's got the Unreal Engine bone rolls. So technically this is not set up um, for animations, but for export. And we're going to go ahead and recreate this armature with some new bones and new features to get it a couple things. If you want dynamic bones in your model, we're going to have to get some weight. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Some weight paints on this skin to mesh, and then we're going to have to generate some bones for the meta rig, and we're also going to have to create a rig out of the meta rig, and then we can finalize it with the Unreal Engine bone rolls after all of the additional joints have been made. So let's get to that. I'm going to start by deleting out my old armature. You can keep it around if you want, I just think it's getting in the way. So let's head back to this character skeleton, which is the base skeleton that you typically start with. If you need a new one of these, you can just Shift A in object mode, and you can add one of these Uefy scripts. You go to basic posing skeleton, and it'll get you one that looks just like this. If you have your character in T-pose, it's going to be pretty easy to position all the bones where they need to be. If it's in more of a relaxed A pose, you'll have to keep the bones somewhat along the axis where they need to point. So let me go ahead and show you that. So you can have a look and gauge where your bones need to be in your project. So, looking at this, all of these X positions point downwards in the world. That is its curling position along the fingers. So, as you can see, the thumb curls just like this direction, it's curled this direction, and same thing with the hand, it curls downwards like this. This bends along the back, etc. So if you're ever lost, this basic posing skeleton will kind of give you a guide, show you how you can fix your positions, because they're expecting to be pointing up and down to the side, whatever their orientation is supposed to be. So if they're expecting that, they need it. That said, we're going to go ahead and create a couple extra bones here. For this neck in particular, I think we want all this parented to the neck. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab the head joint here, duplicate it out so that it's a child of the neck. Then I'm going to just position it right along here probably. Create a couple more. I think about 4 is good. The reason why I chose 4 is because meta rig joints can generate groups usually of certain numbers, so you need a certain amount usually. So I find that 4 is pretty good of an amount, just because it won't run into any errors. You can duplicate extra pieces and you'll be fine. You do run into problems if your meta rig, when you're adding bones to it, has too little. It will sometimes throw an error and not generate what it needs to. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I'm going to rename these. I have a special renaming panel here. You can find the link. I'll actually put the link in the captions down below. But yeah, I'm going to rename these bones here so that it has something like tie. And as long as I'm selected on these, I can hit replace names. It shows me that all the old head names are now tie 1, tie 2, tie 3, and tie 4. If you have something like wings, let's say for example, I want these to be a pair of wings, I can name them wings. And then you'd want to do this. Name them out with a prefix, or a suffix rather, like _L. And what you can do is you can symmetrize this, which will put it on both sides. And it's pretty easy to get bones in the same position. That way you have symmetry of some sort. So, these bones are in their positions, think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait them out. So let me go ahead and delete this old skeleton that we don't need anymore. I'm going to grab this mesh. I'm going to shift select this other mesh, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to add some empty groups right here. What this does is it's not going to paint anything on the mesh. What it will do is add these names for us, right? Tile 1, tile 1, tile 2, tile 3, tile 4. Just not selected on anything yet. Fix that in a second. We're going to go ahead and grab all of these bones here. So I've selected all of the tie bones. And then what I will do is go back into object mode, shift select this mesh here so that both of them are selected, and go into weight paint. And it's going to immediately recognize that it needs to influence the tie. But first, let me select these two little pieces of my tie that I have. For you, it's going to be whatever you need to select. And then, if you have this paint mask selected or turned on, what it's going to do is it's only going to influence the parts of the mesh that you've selected. So in my case, it's just these parts of the tie that I want to influence. I'm clicking on weights, and I'm going to assign automatic from bones right at the top. And what this will do is it'll take the bones that I have selected, like tie 3, tie 4, tie 2, tie 1, and it just added them. So I'm going to go ahead and fix this up a little bit by doing a little smoothing. Repeat that a couple times on all of these, just so it's not as harsh. And then, excuse me. Then I'm going to go ahead and grab this last little part of the tie here and set this all to the neck, probably. It's kind of a wonky spot. Oh, that's it. I didn't notice. So let me turn off my body. So I don't want that visible. I'm going to just paint on my neck over it because I want to go back onto the neck wherever it needs to be. Currently it doesn't need all of this for the neck. I'm going to remove all of that, and then I'm just going to paint over the parts that I want the neck to be on. So I'll go back to symmetry, turn that on with the X mirror, turn on auto normalize, and when I paint over the neck, it's going to erase the old tie values that it used to hold in those locations. So now when I click back to tie, typing in my box to find it, you can see that it's no longer up there where I don't want it to influence. And let's go ahead and give this a quick little tug just to see. You can always turn on this auto IK if you want to have a better look at how it deforms. For me, I'm pretty happy with that. That looks good. So when that's all done, and add this to the meta rig. Now the meta rig right here, it has the same bone positions as the character. If yours is not in the same bone positions, and you need them to be, make sure first that your character is in his rest pose. So like say for example I'm in this pose right here, I like this, I want it to snap to this, you need to apply it. So from pose mode, I just do Control A, and then you can apply this pose as the rest pose. You can also find it up in one of these menus. I believe it's one of these menus. Anyways, so we need all of that to be in the same position. If you go down into the meta rig and you scroll into your panels right here for the Uefy scripts, you can find that it says where is this? Meta rig stuff, right? So fix meta rig and pose meta rig. You can pose the meta rig to get it into this position. If your meta rig looks something like this, let me pull out a human meta rig. If it looks looks like this, and you have the face, and you want the face, that's great. I personally don't use these faces. You can keep them in if you want. You can actually just use these. See how it says twist compatibility, remove face? Untick these if you'd like to keep the face controls and be able to bake in some shape keys. I'll show you how to do that later on. But you can also have twist compatibility, right, for UE4 and UE5. So let's say, for example, you want to use the Unreal Engine 5 mannequin instead. This option here for spline will be able to set it for Unreal Engine 5. It uses a couple extra twist bones in some of the joints, and it has a couple extra spine bones, I believe. But it's not too big of a difference from Unreal Engine 4. Just know that these menus are here if you need them. If your rig does not have a face and you want one, remember all you have to do is Shift A to create a new armature and go to Human Meta Rig. You'll have to size it up, and once it's scaled the way that you want, Shift A, apply your transforms. So, I'm already past that step. Right? In order to get it posed, you just need to do the pose character option right here, and it will snap everything back into position. Right? As you can see, that wasn't a applied pose. So let me go ahead and take this pose and apply that. And now we know that if we snap this back into position, pose character, it no longer snaps back the arms like that. That's how you want it. So let's do this. Let's create a couple extra joints. In order to do this, I'm going to be here in Edit Mode. Clicking on the meta rig, and I can see that it's got all of the joints that it needs minus the tie bone right here. So any bone chain that you need to create for your armature can be made through a little menu just on the right side panel over here. Go down, let me check around in my case. You go down to this menu, I believe. It's one of these menus. Right here, samples. I haven't checked it out in the newer version, so. Basically, I would suggest a basic copy chain, just for the fact that I don't really want to control this. If you want more control over certain things, all of these different joints will do different things. They're going to create certain lengths of bone chains with a set of controls for you, and certain things like palm, limb, finger, these all act differently. In fact, I'm not familiar with a lot of these because I've recently updated and have looked at a couple of these. But I'll give you a quick little rundown on one of my favorites, which is basic copy chain. When I add a sample, it creates these tiny, tiny little bones, and you can scale these up so that they're bigger. Or whoops, let me scale them by the 3D cursor. There we go. So, it's a chain length 3, and it just named it bone 1, bone 2, bone 3. Simple enough. Okay, love it. Let's rotate this, put it into position, just like this, and get it matched up with these coordinates. I think the best way to do this is we can turn the mesh off, and then we can start pulling these in. You turn on this vertex snapping tool, and just make sure it's set to that, to vertex. Pull these into the positions that they need to go on each little hinge. Then if you need more, you can click E to extrude, and then select, put that on that last piece. When I look at this, I need to pay attention to the bone rolls. So, go back to this. Bone groups, up here. So, axis, you turn this on, we'll just rotate these back into position. So right now it says roll 0. Cool, I like it. We can actually select both of these. So I'm going to select both of those. Then I'm making this more complicated. I'll just select the meta rig actually. And manually twist this, the little roll menu. Just make sure it's set to 90 for all of them. So in order to grab this whole chain, you can select L and select an active one. So it's going to grab everything in the chain with L for linked, and then clicking to get inactive. Since I want everything to match the last one on my chain, this yellow one, I can click Shift N, which calculates the bone roll, and I want to select to the active bone. So now they're all situated. What we got to do is just create a rig out of this. Real quick though, I'm going to rename these because I forgot about that and it's necessary for it to work. So clicking rename names. Now they're all named Thai, just like the first original batch, and now they'll be able to create a set of deformation bones from the meta rig that will be included in Armature. So that said, let's go ahead and click on this and hit Generate Rig. Came out with a set of controls for it, and let me give you a better look. So this is the new bone chains that it created for us. It's not quite fully made yet. What it needs is the ability to be exported. So it needs this name. Armature is a special name in Blender, which when used will not export out a root bone other than whatever your actual root bone is in here. Normally Unreal Engine has a dummy root bone associated with the object itself, and that it uses for translation, root motion translation actually. So we are going to generate something. I'm going to go ahead and generate UE4 because that's the one I like to use. So if you go down to this rig, your generated rig operators, you can select Epic Skeleton or Freeform Skeleton. Freeform Skeleton you want to use if your skeleton is something like an octopus or a dog or something along those lines. But this is the skeleton hierarchy for a actual humanoid type skeleton, and you can use this with this option, with this epic skeleton option, and it's going to go ahead and create the extra bones for you without really complaining. So you can do things like, add hair physics to your character, or clothing, or chains, or something else. You can also optionally click this Add Twist Correction for UE5 Mannequin. I haven't played around with that too much because I don't use the Unreal Engine 5 version. But again, these are available for you. If you'd like to keep the twist bones for Unreal Engine 5, for the Epic Skeleton, make a freeform, all this is right here. That said, I'm going to hit Build Skeleton and give it a second to generate these. There we go. And what it created for us when I click on this, as you can see, now it has a set of bones named Thai4, and it will be able to move this type of stuff. Give me a second. Find these, turn them on. So, in order to set it up to be able to be used for the armature, all you have to do is select your meshes, hit Control P, you select the armature, and if it's already weight painted out, you won't need to click anything except for armature deform, because that's what you're doing, is you're deforming it via an armature. When you click on pose mode and you go up to these item tabs up here, you'll notice that there's a set of IK controls which you can turn on. You're able to define these further if you want, like the face rig layers, etc. I'm not going to go over that in this video. It's a pretty complicated topic and I don't want to get into it. But let's get into this. We have a set of main controls right here, and if you'd like to see them easier, turn on in front. It's this little box under viewport display. And we already know that the deformation bones are working, so I'm going to toggle these off, and we'll just see how it's moving around. Okay, so we did make a little mistake when we generated this. It's no big problem actually. We'll just head back to the meta rig, and we notice that since it's detached from the neck, which is where it needs to be, you can head back to this tab in the edit mode and go to bone properties. Bone properties will have this relations tab, and the relations tab is where you can set up whatever it needs to connect to. So for example, for me, it's connected to the neck, which in our case is the meta rig. I believe spines are 4. Let me check. Yeah, spines are 4. So let me click on this, and all we really got to do is click regenerate. So right up here, I'm in the meta rig, and then the object data properties panel. Down in the rigify section, you just hit regenerate rig, and what it does is it reset up everything right there for us. So one more thing, every time that you regenerate, you will have to go back to this panel and set the build skeleton. But that's not a big issue. It literally takes like 2 seconds. Sometimes. Depends how complicated your rig is. Let's see, why isn't that this? Let's have a look, see. Tide 04. Interesting. What am I missing here? Okay, so the next thing you gotta do is you gotta head back to the meta rig, go into edit mode, and make sure that these are all set to deform. So these are set to deform, that's good. But the armature needs these set on here for some reason. Well, we'll go ahead and click them on deform. It shouldn't matter too much. We're clicking these onto deform. And now when this moves, this should move with it. And it does. So now you have all the controls that you need right on your rig. That's looking pretty good. I'll show you how to use that in Unreal Engine in just a second. But first, let me show you my preferred method for creating faces. So, in my opinion, Faceit, use this. It's an add-on. I'll put the link down below. What you basically do is you have a set of instructions that you go up. So here's the setup right here. What you do is you register an object. Say, for example, this thing. I can register this as the face. So let me go ahead and do that. I will register this as the face object. And now, what it's going to give me is a set of vertex groups that I essentially need to define. So I go check geometry. Please assign the main vertex group. Okay, so what it wants is this main vertex group. We're going to go ahead and click this head part as my we're going to assign this one as the main. We're going to find the little eyeballs and turn them on. You know what? I'm going to have to merge these two. That's no problem. So merge this with this. Okay. Now, it's going to need the left eyeball right here. So, or rather, sorry, that's the right eyeball. Yeah, reset rotating screw. I'm going to assign that one as the right, this one as the left. It has a cornea option with iris and another iris, but I don't have that. My character does not have eyelashes. It's got this little bit right here for the tear ducts, but I really don't want these. I don't care for them. I don't think they do anything really. So I got rid of them. Can click on these teeth, eyes, tongue, and rigid. Rigid in our case will just be like hair, so it's basically like don't touch my hair. Otherwise, the face will kind of move that around. Let's go ahead and assign rigid, and we're going to find the teeth. Okay. Eyelashes is set. We need the upper teeth and the tongue. So let's do a set of the lowers by grabbing everything with L. Alright, we'll click lower teeth. And then I'll assign this part as the tongue. Add that. And then finally, select the rest of this. And we're going to assign this as the upper teeth. Did everything correctly. What it's going to do is it's going to be able to generate some landmarks properly on the face, which will pull these selected vertex groups accordingly. So let's click generate landmarks. Then it wants us to select where the chin base goes, so I'm going to click right about there. Size down the face, and then pull the eyes in right about, I think there looks good. And then we have to work in this this little mode for a little bit, but that's alright. Or pull these around where they gotta go. And then it's going to project where these need to be on the final mesh. So you just kind of want to keep everything in line with each other, always pointing wherever it was originally intended. Don't stray too far from those, kind of redirect where everything's got to go. There we go. I think that should work. Let's project the landmarks. I think that works. Let's give it a shot. Actually, let's repose these parts. And then generate the Faceit rig. Okay. And then if you did everything correctly, you can click bind. And I'm not going to mess around with the options. I don't know too much about them. But if you click bind, just use the default. It generally just works. Okay, so it says binding complete. And if I head into pose mode, you'll see right away that it moves around the eyes. You have very good facial deformation. You don't have to do too much manual weight painting, and you can turn off or on the mirror modifiers for how everything works. Oops. Everything works very well, I think, so I'm going to go ahead and not mess with everything. I don't have any need to create any shape keys myself. This comes with a set of shape keys, so you can just work with a set of AR kit ready shape keys essentially. Everything that you need from blinking to moving the face is all here. You can just generate additional shape keys from the combinations of these. So for example, this is jaw forward, jaw right, jaw left, eye wide, eye wide right, eye squint right. So it's got all of your eye controls. One thing that maybe might mess up is your blinking. So if you'll notice, some of this blinking is too crazy, in which case you can go and sculpt it with corrective shape keys and it will fix it right up. You can also tone down these keys a little bit. So you can click Amplify Pose, relax it, and then turn it down from a 1 to something more like that. And then you can take the rest of the face and shape it down with something like, not like this, maybe more like sculpt mode. And then you can kind of grab it, play around with it, do whatever you want. I'm not going to really do too much of that right now because I don't feel like there's a need. But yeah, take care of that if you'd like. Those are usually the only problem areas is blinking. That said, I think we just we bake out the shape keys right here. So we can go to this bake panel, do bake shape keys, and we'll have a whole new set of shape keys just like that. So let's do it. Let's hit that bake button. Click use corrective shape keys, and it will keep your overwritten shape keys with whatever you told us to use. There we go. So you can see, you can turn that down, you can turn it up. It's gonna keep whatever your corrective shape key applied to it. It's got pretty good eye movement. It's got the ability to squint, widen your eyes, move the mouth. So yeah, all of this is set up for you. It creates that if you set up your facial rig correctly, and this will separate your character's facial rig from the rest of the rig and be able to just export this out without any extra added bones. Sometimes it's an advantage. Sometimes you want more facial movement in the engine, in which case you want to export out the deformation bones for that too. Then I recommend that you create a copy with the meta rig and export that out. So I think this covers everything. What we're going to do now is export this out for Unreal Engine. So let's do this. Let's go to the export panel. So let's use the Unreal Engine mannequin roles. By doing this, you're going to blah blah blah. We're just going to set this to UE4 default. Use the UE mannequin roles button, and by clicking on that, you'll notice right away that this, oh no, messes up our bone chains. Well, that's fine. We're going to use that. It's Unreal Engine's bone rules. So let's export this out. I'll show you quickly options I like to use. Usually if I export out a mannequin with the Unreal Engine 4 bone rolls, I'll add a suffix for the UE4 version, and then I'm going to go over to this. It has selected objects selected, so I don't get the sun, I don't get the extra facial rigs, I don't get the extra skeletons. And you just want to select the armature and the mesh option, scale at 1, and if your unit scale over here, under the scene properties units panel, if you're set to 0.01 unit scale, that's where you want to be. The whole Blender exporting process works in that to Unreal using that metric system, or that unit scale system. So set this to 1 scale. I don't change these around, so I just keep it. I think it's negative Z forward, Y up. Use space transforms, apply units, apply modifiers if you need to do things like apply your mirror modifiers, but again, this is going to destroy your shape keys if you are trying to export shape keys. So keep this unticked if you're trying to preserve those facial shapes that we just made. I'm already using Blender or Unreal Engine animations, so I'm not going to tick on bake animations, and Armature just uses these options. Only deform bones is the good stuff. So let's click it, and it's sending it out. And we're going to go ahead and click on to Unreal Engine, and I'm just going to do a re-import. So right now it says we're at 68 bones for this universal skeleton that I'm using. I'm going to re-import this with a new file. Click on it. Oh, there it goes. So I got this error. Multiple roots found in hierarchy. We only support one root. It's not a big issue. Not a big issue. It's one simple fix right here. If you ever see multiple roots found, let's head back to here. You know what? It says that our tie is the parent of works fine. We're just going to change this over to next01, and that should fix up everything. So let's go ahead and re-export that, and now you'll see right away. Let's actually toggle this down. I'll just show you. So it says root, and then we have the mech torso, blah 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 blah. I'm not worried about that. As long as we click export only root bones, that should take care of everything. Or only deform bones. Let's do that again. So that's exported out. Let's re-import this one more time. Okay, so it says we've successfully re-imported. It now says that we're using 82 bones. The old ones still say that they're using 68, which is fine because they do not use these extra bones. Let's click on this skeleton panel, and we're going to browse to our file. We're going to click on that, and it says, here's our extra bones. If you'd like to see them in action, hey, look at them flop around. If we'd like this to start running in the engine, it's pretty simple. We're just going to click on the export or the animation blueprint, and hopefully this doesn't blow up my PC. It doesn't matter what your animation blueprint is. We're just going to click on the anim graph here. Whatever comes out of your state machine does not matter. We're going to take the results, and what we're going to do is click on anim, skeletal controls, anim dynamics. So we're going to need a couple of these. Wherever your dynamics need to be on your mesh, if you have a chain, you're going to have to set up one of these per chain. So right now it says it starts at bone none. The alpha is 1, so it has a full force. And we have to just define out these parameters right here on the right side to get this working. Let me go ahead and switch our mesh so we can have a look at it in action. So right now, nothing's moving for it. We're going to click on this anim dynamics node. We're going to go over to box extents. We're going to actually turn on a couple visualizers for preview live. We're going to click on the planar limits, spherical limits, collisions, linear limits, everything basically. Turn it off if your screens get too full though. If we put a couple numbers into these box extents like 5, 10, it's going to start creating little boxes along wherever our joint starts. So let's start by creating a boom. Let's take a look at these actually. Space used to run the simulation component. Well, we can keep this component space. You can move it over to world if you'd like it to interact with the world, etc. I'm going to keep it at component for now and change it up later and see if it gives it a better result. But relative space bone. When in bone relative sim space, the simulation will use this bone as the origin. Okay. Let's set this up for Taiwan. And then let's put it on a chain. Bound bone says the bone to attach the physics to. B chain is true. The top of this chain, this is the top of the chain. Okay, so this is true. And this needs to be the top of our chain. So we're going to click tie. Now the chain end is going to be tie 4 right here. Right away, when we click compile, we can see that it's already working, but it's a little wonky. So let's fix up a couple of these boxes and see if we can get a little bit of a better result. We're going to need a local joint offset as well. Let's take a look at these joints, just so we can see how they're looking. Looks like they're bending along. Oh gosh, it's hard to tell. I don't know. Let's just put in some numbers and see if this helps. Hey, look at that. Okay. Not quite what we want. We want to not offset on that. We want. Oh, actually, have a look. Local Y, local X. I don't know if that's. Let's try a couple different ones. Just play around with whatever your. Oh, hey, there we go. That works pretty good. I don't think we'll mess around with that too much. You can play with some of the settings down here if you'd like. You can play with collisions as well. I'm going to go ahead and add a couple colliders in here. And we'll just create a spherical limit right here for the chest. So let's go ahead and click spine 03. Limit radius, we'll put 10. Compile that, let's see how it looks. It's not too bad. We're going to need a little bit bigger. What is one? There we go. That's about right. And then when your character is running, he should not have that collide into his chest. Let's have a look with them running or doing something. Let's click on. Let's click on something like this. Whoops. Actually, what can we play with this guy? Not too sure. Let's just take one of these. Play it through here. Click compile. There we go. You got dynamics. I hook this back up because I'm not going to be using that. But that was a good test. So I think that covers just about everything. Maybe not everything. Let's have a look at this guy's shape keys. So apparently they're not coming up in this panel right here. If you run into that kind of error, just know that you just need to re-import them. Sometimes you can see that it's disabled. You just go down. Where is this located? It's under the re-import. Wherever I can find the re-import. Miscellaneous. Oh, here we go. Import settings. Click on mesh, and you go down here to import morph targets, and you can turn this on. And now we can click re-import base mesh. What this will do is it's going to bring in all of your shape keys, which could be, it could take a bit of time to do if you're working with like a lot of shape keys. So this character is working with like a little under 100 shape keys right now. So you can already see that it's taking quite some time to bring them in, and just be patient. Know that it's not broken. It's just a lengthy process to import shape keys. Okay, so the shape keys are done re-importing, but they're not populating right here. If this is the case for you, it's alright. Just reopen your menu, right back to your character, and here they are. So it's got all the good stuff. Here's my blink. It's working really well. Got the gal, at the gar, at wide L, yada yada. Lots of stuff to play around with. Hopefully this helps you guys out in your projects. I have a couple other shape keys that are left over. This was a character I created using Character Creator 3 as a base, so it has a lot of additional shape keys. Yeah, if this video helped you out, that's great. If there's still something that's not really covered that you'd like me to go over, let me know down in the comments. Thank you for watching,